to preface what we're doing today. All right, so this next lesson I'm getting ready to do is 4-3, and I split this into 4 days. So it's going to be 4-3 day 1, 4-3 day 2, and so on, because this deals with factoring. So this is 4-3, solving quadratics. You what? Yeah, I'm going to take it just a second. I'm solving, just waiting for our French tennis. Solving quadratics by factoring. And today is just GCF, greatest common factor. So your homework for Friday, you can up here, like that. You got it? Got it?
Yeah, I remember that.
Fridays?
Friday.
There was an assignment on Friday, because we had a quiz. You took the quiz, okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah, because I need to go finish it.
You did, yep,
Do
you
you
did.
want me to still do it?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Okay, so we've been working on solving quadratics by graphing, okay? And I'm going to tell you, that's my least favorite way of solving these handwritten, unless I have a computer to do it. Because, as you see when you graph, the solution's where it crosses the x-axis. And if it doesn't cross that whole number, it's hard to see exactly what the solution is. So if you have other options, I highly encourage that. So one of the other options we use for solving quadratics is by factoring. So my goal today is it's very simple, that we can solve by factoring using greatest common factor. So to remind you, standard form of a quadratic equation is written in this form. I'm going to put equal 0 back here. Equal 0. That's where everything's on one side of the equal sign, and you've got it set equal to 0. You're going to use this type of factor when you're missing C. So you're going to use factoring by greatest common factor when this C term is missing. So your equation would look like this one. 20x squared plus 15x equals 0. Okay, as you see this written out, you notice what's missing here is that C term. So this is where you want to use graphing, or factoring by greatest common factor. And I've got it listed out in steps. So the first thing you're going to do, okay, is you need to find the greatest common factor between these two terms. What's the biggest number that goes into both of them? So I've got it written out over here to show you, and those of you at home. So I've got a 20x squared, and I've got a 15x. The factors of 20, the things we multiply together to get 20, are 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 20, and then x times x is that. And right now, all I'm doing is listing the factors to show you. Factors of 15 are 1, 3, 5, 15, and x. What you do is you look to see what's the largest number they share. In this case, the largest number they share is 5. Then you look to see how many of the x or variables they share. They share 1x. So your greatest common factor for this problem is 5x. Then, erase that, I don't need it. Step 2, once you find your greatest common factor, divide all terms by the greatest common factor. So in the second step of this, I'm going to divide all of those terms by 5x. When you are dividing powers that have the same base, you subtract the exponents. So 20 divided by 5 is 4. 2 minus 1 gives me x to the first. 15 divided by 5 is 3. X divided by x is 1. 3 times 1 is just 3. So I don't even need to really write that. And then 0 divided by 5x is still just 0. That's what we get when we divide by the greatest common factor. Now, step 3, you're going to write that answer as the GCF, what you divided by. Then in parentheses, your quotient equals 0. So all I'm going to do is put this in parentheses and put that 5x out front. I don't need this anymore, so I can continue my list. Step 4, set each one of these terms right here, the 5x and what's in parentheses, equal to 0. So set your terms, set each term equal to 0, and solve. This is called the zero product property. So I'm going to do 5x equals 0, and 4x plus 3 equals 0, and now I'm going to solve each of these. Here, I'm going to divide by 5, and when I do, I'm going to get x equals 0. That's one of my solutions. Here, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I'm going to get 4x equals negative 3. Then divide by 4. So x equals negative 3/4 is also one of my solutions. And those are the solutions to this quadratic equation. This is where it's going to cross the x-axis. And those steps are the same for each of these problems. That's why I listed them out. Now, I'm going to work out a couple more, and I'm not going to list the steps each time, but I'm going to walk you through it. So, does anybody sitting in here have any questions so far? Ask these guys. Do any of you at home right now have any questions? I've got the speakers turned on so I can hear you if you ask me. Okay, I'm going to take that as a no, and we're going to move on. Please make sure if you don't understand, you ask, because we're going to use this again later. So, go ahead and put, let's do another problem. So sometimes they don't always look quadratic. Okay, sometimes you'll get problems that look like this one. Even though that's not a square, all right? You're going to solve this the same way. You're going to solve this with the greatest common factor. Guys, put the phones away. Step 1, you need to find the greatest common factor, the largest number that goes into both of these. What's the largest number that goes into both of those? 6, okay? And how many A's do they share? I'll give you a clue. It's 4. That's not the clue. The clue is it's always the smallest exponent. It's always the smallest exponent. So 6a to the 4th is the greatest common factor. Divide all terms by 6a to the 4th. 6a to the 5th divided by 6a to the 4th leaves you with a to the 1st. 18a to the 4th divided by 6a to the 4th is 3, because 18 divided by 6 is 3, and the a's cancel out. that equals 0. This is always going to be 0. Then you write your answer to that this way. Hey, watch that. It will pull out. So then in this step, set each one of those terms equal to 0. There's two terms here. Term 1, term 2, set them equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to do 6a to the 4th equals 0. A plus 3 equals 0. Here, I'll divide by 6 first, and I'm going to get a to the 4th equals 0. And so what can I multiply itself by 4 times and still get 0? 0. So this is a equals 0. There's one answer. Here, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. We're going to get a equals negative 3. There's the second answer. That's where this is going to cross the x-axis. Now, I'm going to share a bit of information with you so you know. And I'm going to tell you 99% of the time, 99% of the time, I don't want to say always because then I'll be wrong. 99% of the time, this term will be 0. This first term will be 0. Okay, questions? We're going to do one more, and then I'll get you started on the homework. One more. Nobody's asking questions. I'm just going to make sure we can do this. This is going to be important that we're able to do these. Let's see. I like this one. We'll do 6x to the 4th plus 12x squared, and this equals 0. Anybody, even the people online, what is the greatest common factor? Anybody? 6x squared. So divide everything by 6x squared. When you do, you're going to get x squared here, this first term, plus 2 equals 0. Write your answer to that. Your greatest common factor out front, and your quotient, what you got when you divide it inside the parentheses. Then set each one of those terms equal to 0 and solve. 6x squared equals 0, just like the last problem. When I divide by 6, I get x squared equals 0, so x equals 0. X squared plus 2 equals 0. Okay. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So we're going to get x squared equals negative 2. Guys, to undo a squared number, you have to square root it. Undo a squared number, square root. So we're going to do this. And we're going to get x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 2. And for today, and we're going to get way into this later. For today, you leave your answer here. I want to be clear that this won't be the final answer once we get into complex numbers, but for today, this is where we're going to stop. Because that's a complex number. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? It's fairly straightforward. Okay, the steps are going to be the same. You've got to find the greatest common factor, divide by the greatest common factor. Okay. I printed off the homework for you. So I'll get you guys started on that. And then answer. Does anybody want a copy of my notes? Copy. I have a copy of the notes.
Is it just one? Like,
It is, except I kind of color coded it. Let me show you what I did. It's step 1. It's step 1. Right there. You're going to make copies. be right back. Okay, do any of you have any questions at home?